Hello and welcome back to another video. This is part 2 of all of your questions on narcissism in the workplace. So again, no big long intro on this one. I'm Jo Banks. I've been a professional executive coach for almost 15 years and I'm sharing what I know. Number 14. What can you do when the balance of power is in the narcissist's favour? Again, goes back to what I discussed in video 3, and that's around keeping evidence. So important. Recording evidence, keeping evidence is critical because without that, from an HR perspective, and I spent 20 years in HR, so I know, not having the evidence means that we can't really do anything about it. So evidence is king in this scenario. Question 15. How do we manage this as HR who observe it? Well, as I've said in a previous video, can't remember which one it was now, but bullying thrives where people turn a blind eye. I think it's absolutely crucial that we do something about it where we see bullying. It's about evidence. Keep that evidence. Get the people who are being bullied to keep evidence and raise it with somebody more influential. I know that can sometimes be an issue because people higher up are not necessarily going to have seen the bullying for themselves because, again, narcissists and bullies, they're very clever. They're not going to display that behaviour to somebody who might have an issue with it and who might be able to do something about it. They're going to present themselves as being sweetness and like, what? Me? Oh, of course they're going to do that because they're manipulative. So evidence, 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 dates, times, all of the other stuff I've talked about in this video and in video 3. Question number 16. Is there any evidence that certain professions attract those with narcissistic tendencies more than others? So NHS, military, CEOs. I work in elite sport and recognise so much of what you've talked about in my high achievers in the sector, including athletes and players, etc. I don't know about evidence, but certainly narcissists are attracted to positions of power because it allows them to get away with more. It also, again, remember what we said in video 1, many narcissists are insecure, they have low self-esteem, they have high levels of shame. That's what drives a narcissist. So they build themselves up by putting other people down. So they're attracted to the types of roles where they can be in those positions of power automatically. So I see it a lot with health and safety people, police, CEOs. Oh my goodness. Lots of CEOs and people in power because they have no empathy. So they don't really care about other people. So they can trample over people to get what they want and they often get results. So yes, I think they very much are attracted. I think you see a lot of actors as well might be narcissists. So people in those positions of power because it automatically, that status automatically gives them what they want, that feeling of being in control and being better than everyone else when they know deep down or they feel deep down that they aren't. Question 17. Along the same lines as the previous one, I find narcissistic traits in our union reps which really affect the workforce. Yes, I had 20 years of dealing with unions. I could write an entire book on dealing with unions and I have very strong views on that. Unfortunately, yes, not everybody, again, let's not broad brush. Some people are attracted to the power of being in that role. So yes, you will often see narcissistic traits in union reps. Incidentally, usually when they get a little bit higher up the ladder as union reps, that dissipates a little. However, not necessarily right at the top. So it's interesting, but yeah, definitely a thing. Number 18, how do you deal with an employee being the person bullying their manager? Again, I discussed that in a previous question. I've had exactly that as an example that I've been dealing with a client over the last few weeks. And again, it's about you've got to nip that behavior in the bud and take disciplinary action where warranted. Simply maneuvering and pushing that person, pretending it's not happening, moving them to another department does not work. It just adds fuel to the fire and lets that person think they can get away with even more. So really important that you don't let it drift and you deal with it early. Number 19. If my manager misses emails and then says in meetings I never sent them and makes out that I'm the one who is wrong, is that a mistake or is that something I should keep an eye on? Well, I don't know your boss. It could be a mistake. So let's always, not necessarily jump to conclusions, but I would definitely keep an eye on it. If it is something that they repeatedly do, then that's gaslighting, saying that you didn't do something when you know very well that you did. So what I would say again in instances like that, just keep little diary notes. Keep diary notes of when you sent the email and keep diary notes of when they say you didn't. So anything like that, they're the kind of little red flags. And you also really need to listen to your intuition. Your intuition will tell you everything you need to know. Unfortunately, we override it so often. And I can't remember which video it was I discussed about our amygdala picking up on cues and red flags. I think it was video 1. Really important that you don't ignore your intuition. Number 20, encouraging individuals in the workplace to leave a role rather than deal with the bullying. Is this just in cases where an attempt has been made to bring the narcissist to account and has failed? This could lead to constructive dismissal claims, assuming the individual has collated the evidence as you suggest. Okay, that's a bit of a long one there, so let's deal with the first bit. I would always recommend that if you think you're being bullied, you gather the evidence and you raise it sooner rather than later. However, there are some circumstances where you know that even if you do raise it, it's either going to make the bullying worse or the organization's just going to do nothing about it. Only you know that. Only you know your circumstances of your organization. So I would always say try and raise it as long as you've got the evidence. But if you don't think it's going to do any good, then you leave sooner rather than later. Could this lead to constructive dismissal? Yes, it could lead to constructive dismissal, but in my experience, in my personal experience, and in the experience of all of the clients that I've worked with, helping them get over bullying in the workplace, usually by the time we get to the point of resigning, which is why I say go sooner rather than later, is you feel so depleted. Your energy levels are so low. Your self-worth is so low. Your confidence levels are shot that the last thing you're ever going to want to do is go for constructive dismissal. Some people will, some people, great, happy days. If you can do that, absolutely, you should do that. But for most people, they just want to forget it and move on. Number 21, with regards to expressions, I think they might mean facial expressions or behaviours, can people be thought of as narcissists but are actually neurodivergent? How can we ensure that people are seen correctly rather than mislabeled? Oh, that's a really good question. Okay, there's a massive difference between neurodivergence and narcissism. Now, some of the traits may appear the same. So especially if somebody is on the autism spectrum, they may not have the same empathy as somebody who is neurotypical or even somebody with ADHD. And especially if they're under pressure, they may not be able to mask the same. And that can come across as quite narcissistic. If we look at the underlying driver of the behavior, with narcissists, it's about not taking responsibility. It's about building themselves up. It's about putting other people down. With neurodivergence, it isn't. None of that negativity is there. So they're the main differences. Yes, they can both display a lack of empathy. Yes, they can both blow and not necessarily realize their impact on other people. But this is malignant. This isn't. This is about not taking responsibility. This isn't. So it's really important that you do recognize the differences because sometimes those traits can come across the same, but the underlying drivers are very different. Number 22, Can narcissists diagnose other people as narcissists as a form of making themselves the victim? Heck yes! Narcissists can spot other narcissists an absolute mile off. Oh my goodness, they can spot each other very, very clearly. And as I discussed in video 1, we do have covert narcissists who make one of their biggest traits is to behave like the victim. Oh, poor me, poor me. Because people run around, they don't have to take responsibility, they can blame everybody else. So we do get those covert narcissists as well. It is a thing. So yes, they absolutely can spot each other. Yes, they can often play the victim. They will do literally anything they can to get their needs met and do not have to take responsibility. Number 23, if you've been brought up in a narcissistic home and mirror subordinate behaviour in adulthood, what's the best thing to do for an individual to move away from this cycle? Awareness is everything. I say this probably in every single video I do. Awareness is everything. We can't change what we aren't aware of. So it's about witnessing your own behaviour and changing it. We can all change, regardless of what you might think. That's called neuroplasticity. So notice your behaviour and do something differently. The more you do something differently, you will be building new neural pathways for the new behaviour. So yes, you can teach an old dog new tricks. Yes, you can change, but it takes effort and it takes repetition. Number 24. Is it possible that victims will attract narcissists? Yes, absolutely. I explain who are the victims of narcissists in video 1. Very much so. So if you've been brought up by a narcissistic parent, if you were taught that you should always turn the other cheek and always give people another chance, victims of a narcissist are primed in a way that other narcissists can spot. Important one to remember. Number 25. What if this group bullying is led by someone in charge? It's often led by someone in charge. And the group bullying, so that's what we call flying monkeys. I've explained that in a previous video. Flying monkeys is where the narcissist gets other people to do their bidding for them. Now, a lot of people will do their bidding because, especially if it's a narcissistic boss, because they don't want to be in that position. They don't want to be in the position of being bullied. So it's kind of a self-preservation thing. And we have an inbuilt need to side with our leader. That goes back to our very early tribal times. It's well built into our DNA to side with the leader for self-protection. Number 26. How can you use this knowledge to support employees who are dealing with this in the workplace? Again, it's about teaching them the cycle of abuse. So show them the videos. The whole reason why I've done this series is to raise awareness. I keep going through this when I meet people who have been bullied. And so I wanted to pull together a really comprehensive series. So knowledge is power. Get them to go through this entire series, including these questions, so they can see the processes, because the aha moments that I get when I share this with people is just amazing, because a lot of people are not believed and they think it's them and they think they're going crazy. That's the gaslighting. So showing them this series, getting them to create the evidence file and to keep all of the emails, the texts, the phone calls, and write down the instances is really, really important. So that's how you can best support and believe them. Even if you don't see that behavior in that bully yourself, you don't see that person as a bully, that doesn't mean that they're not bullying. Don't forget, narcissists are very, very clever and they're very, very manipulative. They aren't going to show them true self. They aren't necessarily going to show their true colours to everybody, because that doesn't serve them. What next? For a free copy of my Narcissism in the Workplace fact sheet, click the link in the description. And if you haven't started watching my Narcissism in the Workplace mini-series, click the link at the end of the video, or I'll leave it in the description below. In the series, you'll learn what drives a narcissist, types of narcissists, who their victims are, the narcissistic cycle of abuse, the Duluth power and control model, which covers coercive control, can a narcissist change, and how to deal with narcissistic bullying. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any new upcoming episodes. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you to everybody who watches until the very end, and thank you so much for your continued support.